Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education on Monday, March 14th. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I believe we have a presentation this evening, but before we get to that, we just need to take a moment to wish at least the math teachers Happy Pi Day. So, okay. The presentation tonight, I believe, is Jefferson County Community Ministries with Mr. Keith Lowry. Is that correct?
That is correct. You are a veritable font of information, Ms. Skinner. Thank you. So, yes, ma'am, we are very blessed today to have Mr. Keith Lowry here, the Executive Director from Jefferson County Community Ministries. And anyone who's been here for some time recognizes that we've had a very long and special relationship with them, from having individuals who teach classes over there. I think my son went to chess club at least once over there with builders, to a lot of good opportunities for community service for our high school students, for our OLC students. We've worked very closely with them to help grow in children a sense of community, a sense of civic responsibility, and they've really been wonderful partners in that. So Mr. Lowry is here to give you a little bit of information about where they are at as an organization, and some discussions that we've had about partnering now and into the future. So Mr. Lowry.
Thank you, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. Gibson. It's a pleasure to be here and to tell you about how Jefferson County Community Ministries partners with Jefferson County Schools. I've got a couple of really great examples, and I think it's wonderful. For those that don't know, we've been in existence since 1983. We're coming up on our 40th anniversary a year from now. We are a faith-based, community-focused organization. And we bring a lot to the community, and we're trying to not be the best kept secret in Jefferson County. Let me start off by talking about, we have 7 different departments that we work with. The first is intake. Intake sees about 1,800 clients a year and about 500 families. They're allowed to give, or they're authorized to give, short-term assistance, including gasoline to go to a doctor's appointment or a medical appointment, to helping people not become homeless by helping them pay partial rent or utility payments. And they can even help some people stay in a motel for a night. It's a great place, but that's the heartbeat, or the heartbeat of what we do. Everybody comes through intake. The next thing we have is a clothing store. Now, it's not a store, it's a giveaway. We give out about 2,000 pieces of clothing a year. And that's hats, gloves, everything else you can think of. It's quite an operation. And we also have a laundry facility. So all the clothes that are donated are laundered, dried, folded. And then when we have a huge excess, we have a lot of partners in the community that we give those clothes away to make sure that we don't just hoard clothes. We make sure that it goes to where it needs to go. The next thing we have is a food pantry. The food pantry takes in about 200,000 pounds of food a year, and we give out about 200,000 pounds of food a year. And what's unique about our food pantry is that we can serve families, individuals. We also have what we call walking food for the homeless who don't have the ability to use a can opener or use a microwave. But we also have healthy foods for those who have a medical condition. So instead of giving them cooking oil, we'll give them peanut oil when it's available. So we try to create an environment that's healthy. And then we also have partnered with West Virginia University Medicine, who presents every once in a while cooking with the docs. And we have one of our doctors come in, they grab material out of our food pantry and then show people how to cook using healthy cooking habits with the food that we're able to give. We next have day programs, and the day programs are, we will provide minimum wage jobs to individuals who haven't been in the workplace for some time. who need to get some extra self-confidence. They need, or if they haven't been in the job market for a while, it pads their resume, gives them some experience, and we pay them for a short term up to 6 months. And then we help them find a better job using that as a springboard. One of the things also that we have in our day programs is, just as Dr. Gibson pointed out, we've just, not formally, but we have an agreement with the Adult Education Center. Some of our clients cannot read or write. We're providing the instructor, the Adult Education Center is providing the materials, and together we're going to have a class. The very first class is going to be in teaching reading and writing to individuals who can't. And we're going to branch out from there depending upon how we work and how many students show up. But we're excited about that opportunity. The other thing that we have is a cold weather shelter, and that operates from November through March. And one of our 5-year plans is to build a shelter that includes families. And I don't know if you know this, but in Jefferson County, and not even in Berkeley County, no one has the ability to house a family in an emergency situation. We can house individuals, we can house males and females, but we cannot house families because those facilities don't exist. In our 5-year plan, we're going to create and have that facility. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little more detail when I talk to the next section, which is case management. We have 2 full-time case managers and 1 part-time case manager, and they work with the community. If intake is the heartbeat, case management is the lifeblood. They're the ones who take short-term problems, and then if they have long-term issues, then they'll work with them. So we have people who come to us who don't have a birth certificate. And without a birth certificate, you can't get an ID card. Without an ID card, you can't get Social Security card. So our case managers work with them to make sure that they have all the material that they need. Our case managers are currently seeing about 400 to 500 clients a year. And it's a superb job. In the last 3 months, we have taken 5 individuals who themselves were each homeless for decades and got them all permanent housing. But it took 6 or 7 months of hard work to get all that accomplished because they didn't have any of the documentation since they'd been homeless for so long. And this is another place that I said I'd talk about. We've worked with Jefferson County Schools. They will refer students who are homeless and their families to us, and we will work to get them a temporary facility to stay in. We will work to give them food, and we'll work to get them so they can stay in school and not have the students get confused or upset because they don't have a place to stay. We also partnered with West Virginia University Medical Center and with Shenandoah Community Health. And we actually have a health clinic that we have on site, and we see somewhere between 300 and 400 clients a year. And we provide medical care to those who don't have insurance, or to those who are afraid to go to a doctor, or just don't trust going to doctors. And so we also provide medical care, including pharmaceuticals and other materials, to students and their families who can't afford or don't have the ability to do that. And I'm really proud of the relationship that we have with Jefferson County Schools. And we're increasing that as we go through, because as we build our programs out, we will be able to help more with I guess it's 700 or 1,000 school children who are homeless in our county and their families. Our goal is to work with them and provide those services. One last thing, we are currently in the process of negotiating a year-long shelter. I can't say anything more about it because I have to take it to the board. I'm meeting with the board tomorrow, but we are going to be providing or creating housing for families, including children, on an emergency basis until we can work with them to get permanent facilities for their children. And it's exciting to me. It just came up last week, and we are brimming with all kinds of energy and excitement about that. And let me just stop there because I don't want to take up the whole time. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, I have a few and some comments.
Sure.
I used to volunteer there and before COVID. So I don't know if you didn't mention that you offer recovery coaching services, because I was a recovery coach there. So I don't know if you still provide that. but-
We do on a limited basis. We have about 90 volunteers. We used to have 180 volunteers, so we've been cut back about half. So some of the programs that we had before, such as recovery coaching, or for those who are addicted with other substances, but we have partnered with about 50 different agencies across the county and the state. And one of our biggest partners right now is Mountaineer Recovery Center. And we work hand in glove with them. When somebody completes their 28-day program, they turn them over to us, and we work with them to get them integrated back into society in a clean way.
Yeah, I think it's important, if in case people watch the video, to let them know how they can volunteer. And also you have the back door that, people can donate things.
Mhm.
So I think that might be helpful. And
Sure.
one more thing, I'm wondering if you would take a donation today, because I have all these toiletries I've been saving when I go to hotels.
That's wonderful. Thank you
And
very
then
much.
So I know you're always giving out. coffee to audit room or let them use it.
Thank you. What's unique about this is we have a unique relationship with many churches. And one of the churches we have a relationship is with Asbury Church, who's just a couple of blocks away. And we will take up 3 days a week, clients who want to have a shower, and they use these kind of toiletries for that purpose. So it's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and if you could just share how simple it is to volunteer. I know you have to do a little training.
At this point, we've kind of automated, and our volunteer is really easy. If you go onto our website, which is jccm.us, there's a little button that says, I want to volunteer. And you push that button, it takes you to a registration page. You fill it out with a little bit of information, hit send, and we'll contact you and say, okay, when do you want to start? It's really easy to volunteer, and it's fun to volunteer. We have a lot of people that volunteer in the intake office. We have people that volunteer in the food pantry, and we have other people that volunteer in the laundry facility. And there's other volunteers who do specialized training, but you have to have a certain amount of training to work in case management or other fields. And we also have a set of double doors on the side of the building where you just ring the doorbell and give your donations, we'll come out there. Any other questions?
Mr. Lowry, how do you feel like the school system could best support Jefferson Community Ministries? Or is there a rotating list of needs that, as far as I know, they do, like wear a hat for $1, there's all kinds of different fundraisers the kids will do, or some of the groups, specific groups will do a food drive, or is there something that you find from the school system that you think is the most supportive that we can try to help make sure that continues? Or
We have been supported by the schools in a huge way throughout the county. I can think of South Jefferson Elementary. Is that right? Yes. They had a huge food and clothing drive, and they brought in like 8,000 pounds of food. They brought in a bunch of blankets and socks. We've had other youth groups come in and have food drives. And as Dr. Gibson talked about, we'd love to have children come by so they can see how we're giving back to the community and get them excited about the fact that there's more to the community than what they have in front of their life. So we do all of those things, and that would be wonderful to continue that relationship and have it grow. Another way as we go forward, and I have more solid plans, it would be great to share with you how excited I am about our family facilities for emergency housing, and I can do that at a later time. Not prepared to do that today.
I know how important it is when I was volunteering there, and I'm happy to continue volunteering. The homeless shelters would transfer from facility to facility a week at a time
Yes.
throughout the county.
Yes.
So a church may volunteer their basement, and
We have 13 churches that volunteer their facilities for a week at a time. And we have a bunch of volunteers that pick up cots and sleeping bags and the totes for the individuals, and we transfer them from church to church once a week. And that goes from November to March. And what I'm trying to do is be able to create that environment for the entire year. But it's free real estate and we don't have to pay for it. And the churches volunteer and they send out people to help us manage the clients at night. It's a wonderful opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much for being here this evening and everything that you do on a daily basis.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
All right. Next, we have the Deputy Superintendent for Instructional Support update.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Is this working? Yeah, okay. All right. So I left a paper copy of that agenda back on the copier in the board office. So Jason does have it posted there. Just have a few things to talk to you about tonight. First, I'll start off talking about the Hope Scholarship. I'm not sure what your knowledge is about the Hope Scholarship. I'm sure it's something that you've heard of being a board member. There's all kinds of information about it, and we're all kind of learning as we go. Right now, the reason I'm bringing it to you tonight is the window for parents to put in their letter of intent starts on March 1st and runs through May 15th. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about that, answering some of those bullet points up there. And then certainly I left some frequently asked questions up there with Ms. Skinner that she could pass around later if you have in particular questions. So the Hope Scholarship Program is an educational savings account, an ESA, that will allow parents and families to utilize the state portion of their education funding to tailor an individualized learning experience that works best for them. And you may wonder who qualifies for this. If you are eligible or required to be enrolled in a kindergarten program, then you are eligible. If you were enrolled full-time in a public elementary or secondary school in West Virginia for the entire instructional year previous to this one. So that means you would be eligible. And then you can also enroll at any point, at any time. And as long as you're a full-time student and attending a public elementary or secondary program in this state for the last 45 days. So if you weren't a student last year, full-time, and you are a student this year, you can apply. And at the end of that 45-day period, you would hear back from the state as to whether you qualified for that Hope Scholarship or not. Some other information about the Hope Scholarship. People often wonder how much money is available. That does change from year to year. For the school year 22-23, it's about $4,300 that's available. And what can families spend their money on? A variety of things, tuition and fees for private schools, services provided by a public school, including tutoring, fees for standardized or advanced placement exams, fees for preparation courses, educational services and therapies, supplemental materials, transportation fees, and then any other qualified expense that would be approved by the Hope Scholarship Board. So again, I'm sure you probably have heard a little bit about this. The reason that we're telling you about it today is it's important to every district to know what your student enrollment is. And so with this letter of intent window open right now, we should be able to tell what our student enrollment is. And we need to know that so we can plan for staffing. So we do understand that once the school year starts, we may have some students moving back and forth, depending or not whether they are qualified for that Hope Scholarship. So that's what we know at this point. It is in state code, came from a Senate bill. And again, I'm sure you have some awareness of the Hope Scholarship, but I just wanted to just kind of bring you up to speed on that a little bit. The Promise Scholarship, I just wanted to let you know that right now, all of our high school counselors have submitted all of the students eligible for the Promise Scholarship. That always happens this time of year. So I did want to update you and let you know that. Also, let's see. This is the end of the third quarter marking period. And we do have students that are on the DF list. And we want to make sure that all of those families are contacted and appropriate SAT meetings are scheduled if necessary. And then also encourage Canvas signups if parents aren't signed up for Canvas. Next on the list, the agenda is our summer experience. You may remember hearing about that last year. We continue to plan for that. We are far ahead of the curve from where we were last year. We are currently getting ready to post our administrative positions for our summer experience so that those people can be in the buildings for our summer programs. I listed some of the programs that will be offered. As you probably remember last year, we had a program called Summer Soul. We continue that this year. Summer Soul is basically an experience that's based in academics and summer learning, but also it's interactive, engaging, and addresses not only academic needs, but social emotional needs. So we will offer Soul K through 12, ESL, which is our ESY, I'm sorry, which is our extended school year program for special needs students, our EL program for English language learners, and then also credit recovery, as well as middle school credit recovery and summer school. So there are students who may be in jeopardy of being retained, and we want to make sure we offer summer school as an opportunity for them to move on to the next grade level. But our principals, our secondary principals, were very adamant about making sure that we did offer credit recovery and middle school summer school this summer. All right. Last on the agenda, I wanted to let you know, these used to be called climate surveys. They've changed name, and it's now called a West Virginia School Learning Environment Survey. So just wanted to let you know that we are about to push all of those out to our parents. That will be school specific, so parents can just access a link and complete a survey about their school. And then the schools will be doing the same thing with their staff and with their students. This is really, really valuable information for us. We hope that the results of those surveys will help us with continuous improvement in all of our schools. And Dr. Gibson and I both have spoken to our principals about that, and we hope to get as many responses back as possible. And I left you a little bit of information there on the bottom there about that window. And the window for the survey is February 14th through April 23rd. So that is all I have for you tonight. I'd be glad to entertain any questions.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
a couple of questions. The Hope Scholarship will pay for tutoring for a student that stays in the school system too. So it's not just paying for a charter school or private school. Is that correct?
It says services provided by a public school, extracurricular individual courses, tutoring. Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is just I've been emailing different people and calling seniors with a lunch bill or any kind of bill. What happens there? Because it's coming up on that time and letters are going out that I know I talked to food services. One school has about $16,000 bill.
Mhm.
The other, I think 13,000 for the other high school. So can you say because a lot of parents are concerned that other children might not be able to graduate and they're thinking of ways they could probably help. So what is the reality?
Yeah, I'm not sure how Jefferson responds to that, but I let Dr. Gibson, I think I know the answer.
Yes. So first and foremost, no child will ever be prevented from getting a diploma and graduating based on any economical status, any unpaid bills of their parents, any unreturned library books. Those are material things that we can certainly negotiate with their parents. That has no effect on a child's status for graduation whatsoever. So there's no
That's
need to have concern about
reassuring,
that for
so
families.
everybody can hear that. 'Cause-
Thank you. Thank you for asking and ensuring that they understand that clearly.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I just have a quick question, actually a couple. Kindergarten registration, can you address that? Because I know that's
I think maybe started or not, but I know that's always every year. Not
It-
sure people understand when
It
that's.
it has started, and we have an online portion of that where parents can get on and just express that they are intending to send their child to school. The usual enrollment process is pretty much the same as it has been in the past, but we are trying to move more towards a online registration, but we're kind of taking baby steps to get there. So.
And where are we gonna host summer school this year? Do we have middle and high? or-
Well, it's funny you ask because we have a principals meeting tomorrow and we're going to hash that out. Because we do have some schools that are undergoing renovation, construction, need some additional work that are kind of off limits. And then we have some schools that are available, but we don't want to burden any one particular school. So we thought we'd get the principals together and have them kind of work out a schedule so that it's fair across the board. Because it is a big undertaking for a school to take that on and then be ready for the school year. So,
So that we haven't decided yet. but-
no.
And then how about, I don't see PE on the list. Is PE still something kids can take in the summer?
They can take it as part of credit recovery, if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't remember how, I remember my children taking it in the summer, but I don't remember
Yeah.
it being a credit recovery. I think they just took PE in the summer instead of during the year.
Yeah, I don't think that we're planning on, does anyone know the answer to that? I don't know that we're offering phys ed. No.
Okay.
I think that changed when the,
And
you could do the athletic credit and such for gym class.
Right.
Yeah. I
And get
thought
the
I
credit
remembered
that way.
Okay.
It's hard to keep
And-
up.
I know. It's-
Yeah.
Just to clarify a clarification with the Hope Scholarship, you cannot be a full-time student in a public school and receive the funding.
That's
So
correct.
to clarify, you cannot get the funding for.
yeah, that's
just
why I
tutoring.
asked, because I thought
Right.
it was only. if
It's
you're
just
leaving.
supplemental services that you can get. But if you are a full-time student, you're not eligible for even the supplemental piece of it.
Right.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that
Mhm.
that clarification was made. Any other questions of Mr. Banks?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, next we have the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held February 28th, 2022, and the special meeting held March 7th, 2022?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from the regular board meeting held February 28th and the special meeting held March 7th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, citizens' comments. We have Joanne Curran. And just a reminder that you're limited to 3 minutes. And please don't make negative or derogatory comments using a name or position by which an individual can be identified.
Well, a lot to cover tonight in world history class because it has to include economics, science, and sex, of course. And oh, we can't forget feelings. Okay, economics. Kids see gas prices going up. Do they know why other prices go up when gas prices rise? Are they taught that because the woke climate liars shut down America's own oil energy production, we have to beg to buy from our evil socialist dictator enemies like Russia, Iran, and Venezuela? And then we'll use more of the dirty fuel to transport it back here so we can look as pure as the wind-driven snow to the young green indoctrinated students. How about offering a class in logic and the truth about energy and inflation? But the real world is a dangerous place because of evil, period, and the wokeness of the green climate indoctrination. This present war is bigger than the cute climate change cartoons kids are weaned on. You tell young skulls full of mush that climate change caused by fossil fuels will end the world in their lifetime. Oh no. Hey, wake up, the world as we know it could end a lot sooner than you think, while you climate czars stamp your feet denying what's right in front of you. Listen, no one in the entire world is against wind and solar energy. They are but two more forms of energy that the good Lord has provided for his creation that we can learn to use efficiently. Previously with water power, buffalo chips, and now natural fossil fuels in the earth like oil, gas, and coal. By the way, do you tell your West Virginia students that electricity requires coal to produce, or that the huge batteries for solar or wind structures, even electric cars, become hazardous waste for eternity? And that presently we are depending on buying the parts for wind and solar from enemy dictators who cancel people of differing opinions, also for eternity. I am sure you do not. Words mean things. Words are teachers' tools. Your words are destroying our kids and our country. You hate me for saying these things about you. You'd like me canceled, but I don't hate you. I do hate the one-sided words you use or decide not to use in the classroom. Yet, even at this pivotal time of war, you still can't get your minds off of everyone's genitals. Ukraine required men to stay and defend their homeland. Only women and children could leave. How sexist. And what should swimmer Leah Thomas choose to do? You wokesters are obsessed with sex. You are appalled that K-3 kids in Florida are not taught about sex. You start sex ed camps for grades 3 to 5. They're kids, for God's sakes. You think everyone should be led by their genitals and that the grass is always greener with somebody else's genitals. This early sexualization would seem to groom kids as victims or ultimately even sexual predators. You hate me for saying this out loud, but it seems an obvious outcome, like defunding the police leads to more violent crime is obvious. Now, if only we could cancel the parents. They're the ones we really have to watch out for. They think they know what's best. They want us to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic without relating it to sex. Imagine that. Wouldn't it be nice if Democrats, socialists here in America had the freedom to cancel all misinformation forever, like Russia? Absolute socialism corrupts absolutely. The end.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. Ms. Loring, are there any changes or anything to the consent agenda?
Good evening. Yes, there is a correction on the personnel actions. There's a correction to Denise Likens' position and location. That was a former job she held, but the correct one is kindergarten teacher at CW Shipley. That's the position she's retiring from. Number 18 underneath the separations. And then that's the only change or correction we have this evening.
And you said that's correcting. It's not science teacher at Wildwood Middle. It's kindergarten teacher at CW Shipley.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's a former job she held.
Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended to number 18?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any questions or discussions about the consent agenda?
Yeah, I have a question. Should we remove that item under approved out of area trips since it was canceled and it, I don't know, does that happen? Because we're approving something that.
It's an out of trip question.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, sorry.
I can make something up, but.
There's an out of area trip that was canceled and she's wondering if we need to remove it.
No, I would go ahead and approve it because thus far, all of the out of area trips that were canceled this weekend for weather, they have all informed us that they intend to reschedule them. If we don't, then you know, we've lost nothing by approving it. So, but that was a good question. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All in favor of the consent agenda with number 18 revised, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Moving on, unfinished business, we have none. Then under new business, we have request approval for an RFP for the Page Jackson room renovation, part of the bond project.
Yes, ma'am. This was one of the bond projects that was approved by the voters for us to create a historical room museum in the Page Jackson room for individuals who had utilized that high school over time and their historical perspective on the educational system at that time. They've been working very closely with us in terms of getting some great interviews and some memorabilia so that students in the future can profit from that information. We've worked with middle school students and asking them what they would like to know about that time and about those individuals, and use those to drive our video interviews with them. So this is simply a request to the board to put out an RFP for the work that needs to be done, and we'll bring back the committee will bring back a recommendation for a bid once we receive them all.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the RFP for the Page Jackson room renovation, which is part of the bond project?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joy. Any question or discussion? All in favor of approving the RFP for the Page Jackson room renovation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to B. Request approval to seek an RFP for Blue Ridge Elementary fire alarm replacement, also part of the bond project.
Yes, ma'am. Blue Ridge Elementary's fire alarm system at its age is in need of replacement. And this was a project that was approved by the voters in the bond. And we're seeking an RFP to go out and get bids for it. Once again, to bring back to you once we have a recommendation.
Is there a motion to approve the RFP for the Blue Ridge Elementary fire alarm replacement? Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. And just, this is the elementary, not the primary, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor of approving the RFP for the Blue Ridge Elementary fire alarm replacement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, superintendent's comments.
I did have one question that I wanted to address for any community members who may have had them. We sent out a notice last week or the week before regarding the outcome of our mid-year counseling visit from the West Virginia Department of Education and some of their recommendations on our scheduling codes. And one of those was the consolidation of codes for our, what we call our general education and our college prep courses. Those are actually a singular code at the State Department. So we had to collapse those into one. We continue to have honors classes, AP, dual enrollment. All of those options are available to students, and there is no effect in terms of their credit courses. That's simply a merging of those codes that was a requirement for us. So we are on track. Kudos to our counseling department. We are on track to be able to provide our high school students with their schedules when they receive their end of year. I see your smile. When they receive their end of year report cards this year. It has been a yeoman's effort, and a shout out right now to our Weavis and technology staff and our counselors. We have been meeting at least once and oftentimes more per month to try to ensure that we stay on track with those. So it's been a positive experience.
Hey, you're singing in the background. I mean,
Do you?
that's-
Hallelujah.
Mhm.
Can I ask just a quick question about that? With the codes, I know before with the requirements for NCAA, that was the issue I know we have with general and CP. So by merging those codes correctly, the general / CP, so we will just have basically CP, honors, and AP. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, ma'am. We'll have general, what you could say general / CP, those will be combined courses that will deal with the issue. NCAA did not recognize those as separate courses, and we had some transcript issues for students that we had to go back and do a tremendous amount of work in order to make sure that they could have their eligibility for scholarship. So this does address that issue. Yes, ma'am.
And so on our paperwork, will we call them general classes? Will we call them college prep classes? Will we call, how does that look as a parent? I'm thinking if I receive that catalog and I'm looking at what to put my child in, how will those be laid? Do we know yet?
Well, in terms of the course catalog, they will be labeled as general education classes.
Okay, so it would be general, and then we'll have honors, and then we'll have AP.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we won't really.
And
have-
as well as dual enrollment, which
Right.
you can also utilize.
Okay, so essentially we will have, it's a general / college prep, but we will not be calling anything college prep at this.
Right. We won't be calling them anything separate, no, ma'am.
So then how do they qualify for the sports if they're just called general? Because it used to be that they had to take at least college prep.
No, ma'am, those qualify as college prep courses. They're the
Okay,
same
but
ones. Yes, ma'am.
Just the name has changed.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Yeah,
Just the name.
I think before
It's-
what it was, if I remember correctly, is that because we had the code for college prep was the one that qualified. And so They took the college, or they took the general and that.
They
was
took the
their-
general,
but
wouldn't
now
take
that
that, they
it's-
would not accept, because were using two different course codes and they don't accept that.
Right.
So we had to merge those course codes into the
into
one that they will accept. Yes.
So my question then is the transition classes, if you still offer those senior
Mhm.
transition, do you offer those alternative math classes? And if so, what are they coded?
I would have to get back to you about those codes. I'm not sure. We spent a lot of time working on the ones for NCAA eligibility and for the promise scholarships, which were due last week. And we made sure that everyone who could qualify, and, kudos to the high school for giving folks personal phone calls to make sure that they knew they were eligible and what they needed to do to get those in. But I can bring that answer back for you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Ma'am.
Right. And I don't believe we have an executive session this evening, do we? Okay. All right, then 7:40, meeting adjourned.